be an interesting session.
Yep.
Well, hopefully everything will work out.
Oh boy.
Eight minutes, okay. Well, let me see.
Okay, can I try sharing it?
Yes, you can.
I'm using my wife's computer because mine has some glitches on the screen, like not all the time, but if it's in the middle of the presentation, I'll be damned. So let's see. I'm gonna try sharing it. Still open. Wow, what a lazy computer. Okay, let's try.
Yep, I'm getting something in here. Yep.
Okay. So probably should swap screens. Or that's good. You're seeing the presentation?
I am.
Swap. Still seeing it?
Yep, now it's on the big display. Yeah, that's good. Beautiful.
So this is the right one, right?
Oh, it looks great. We have it in here. I don't know. It looks good. Mike, you got that? Looks good. Yeah. Yeah, see, it's on the screen in back of me. We got it. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mike, are you there? Probably stepped away for a second. Okay. Anyway, yeah, everything's good. Very good.
Can I stop sharing or just leave it as it is?
You can leave that up. That's fine. Because we're not rolling really technically till 3 o'clock. So it's up to you. It's up to you.
Fine by me.
Mike, are you there? Are you listening?
Yes, I am.
I got a question for you. Now,
Sure.
Gabriel, when he logged in as a guest, correct?
Yes.
And he was able to share.
I made him a co-host.
Aha, that's how you got to do that.
Yes.
I
And I've
see.
also made you a co-host so that you have the power to mute people or turn off people's cameras and things like that.
Got you. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll work that out when the time comes. Cool. Yeah, the Zoom thing is still a little new to me. Still working out some of the bugs.
We're all figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, right. It's crazy what happens in the classroom though, because it's like it takes away from the class time, and it could be it's a real bummer. I'm still working on trying to figure out how to share portions of a video if I can, or hyperlinks and stuff. Sometimes you got to remember to put the sound on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we got some people coming in now. Good. It's just starting to fill up. Good. We got 2 minutes. Hey, Bob.
There. Hey, Tim.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that when you give your talk, Mike Simonovich is going to be out of town, so I'm going to try to do the best I can at being the so-called technical engineer for it all. But I think everything will work out. So,
Hey, Tim. I have total confidence in you.
how's the weather up there? Getting warmer?
It's tropical. Yeah, it's 45 degrees.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah. Gabriel,
Yes.
good to see you.
Good to see you too. Long time no see you. I
I'm
mean,
looking forward to the talk.
we've been talking a lot and exchanged emails, but not seeing you.
I'm still the same. I haven't found a barber yet.
Yeah, I found.
I would leave it. It looks good.
Yeah, I'm going to take after you, Tim. You're
You
my
got
role
that-
model.
You got that Brad Pitt thing going on.
Hey, listen, it's going to get longer yet.
Okay, we got about 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay, it's 3 o'clock and we're rolling. Welcome to the Department of Geography Colloquium Series for spring of 2021. Today's guest speaker will be Gabriel Cardozo Carrero. And Gabriel holds a Bachelor's of Science in Biological Science and a Master's in Science in Ecology from the National Institute for Research in the Amazon, Brazil. His areas of interest are land use change, spatial econometrics, and political ecology. And we are very pleased to have him with us today to give a talk. He is a PhD student in our department. Take it away, Gabriel.
Oh, thank you. Just some things popping up here. I just wanna, is my video on? Yeah, no. Okay.
Yeah, we can see it. We see it on the big screen.
Okay.
You have captions on as well on the bottom of the screen. That's fine.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I will present today part of my doctoral research, and my dissertation topic is focused on frontier heterogeneity and development processes in the Amazon basin. And today I will focus on part of it, which has been organized into 3 manuscripts for publication. And it focuses mostly on public land appropriation. And I've been working in other chapters that deal with spatial heterogeneity of processes at different scales, but today it's land appropriation, the topic. And before start, I would like to thank my committee for valuable feedback, my advisor, Bob, for his continuous support, and also Cynthia, that has helped me refining the conceptualizations related to land appropriation and territorialization I'm going to be presenting. So much research addresses macroeconomic forces and microeconomic behaviors responsible for the basing's forest loss, but such studies often overlook what takes place prior to tree felling on any given property. That means forest land must be appropriated before its dedication to agriculture. So this has implications for our understanding of Amazonian environmental change, given a social process that contributes to deforestation remains obscure, and namely the formation of illicit private holdings on public lands, or grilagem. And grilo here means cricket in Portuguese, and the term grilado is a reference to a practice of forging titles being made to look old by placing them for a few days in a box filled with crickets. Yeah, in other words, grilagem is the legalization of public lands through forged documents, bribery, and frequent violence. So just give you an overview of my objectives. The first objective is more concerned to processes and the agents. And the objective is extend the Amazonian's frontier development narrative with a study of the land grab industry. And I'll do that by using scholarship in the concept of the frontier, the mechanism of land grabs, and the process of territorialization. And I will provide a thick description on specialized agents. The second one concerns to the area of illicit appropriation. And for that, I will estimate the magnitude of illegal land grabbing, deforestation, the rates at each which these claims were legalized due to law changes, and the downsizing of settlements. And I'll do that by using geospatial analysis, combining several data sets from the Brazilian government. So it's kind of a cut, right? Yeah, okay. So first, I will introduce a bit of the scholarship in the Amazon frontier expansions that somewhat uses and adapts Turner's theory for the US, where this concept of temporary space between wilderness and civilization is a frontier, and Turner's followers expanded it, incorporating economic development in states and the landscape transformation. And the Brazilian dictatorship embraced this idea and in a development model for the Amazon. But these concepts are contested and open to debate. For instance, what about the recurrence of resource territorialization by competing groups like states and non-state actors? Where is the threshold in terms of spatial and temporal dimensions? And what about the dynamism of agents in social relations? So many depict as idea of the capitalist penetration from the southern core Brazil to the Amazon, but it is many also have criticized that because this often overlooks what the impacts it causes in indigenous populations and other long-term residents, and also for the environment. So in making this new concept, this new contested concept, we I hear things that the conceptualization emphasizes a transitory nature and the liminality of frontier spaces. And it's not a border, but rather a sphere of friction where established regimes and social-political relations and life worlds are overturned to make way for new waves of resource extraction and new territorializations and actors. And so the frontier making and territorialization they are integrated in a dialectical process. So for one, it's destructive and discursive forces that supplant existing worlds, and whereas territorialization actions towards consolidation of space and control over resources and people. Oh my God. I think I have uploaded the wrong version. Gee. Okay, what should I do? I'll try to improvise. I think this presentation is not complete, but I'll try to improvise because I have summarized many other parts of it. My goodness. Okay. So I'll try to do a quick summary of the land law evolution as it is important for the new land appropriation industry. And first, in the Brazil colony, they established rights by possession, which is the direito de posse, which legitimize individuals' rights of land occupied if they are cultivated. So these were called the Sesmarias, and then open to direito de posse afterwards. The second period from monarchy to republic, the Brazilian Empire abolished the Sesmarias, and all lands that were not productive were returned to the state as terras devolutas, or unclaimed public lands. And in the 1850s, the empire creates the first land law. And this law institutionalized a private property, but also it has an exception where thereby they recognize rights by possession, the direito de posse. So it's kind of called for expropriation of non-productive possessions. And then in Brazil Republic, with the constitution and civil codes, they recognize again the private property rights as absolute, perpetual, and irrevocable. And also they create the idea of the uso capião, which is the right to land by use. At the same time, transferring the undesignated lands or terras devolutas to the state. But this also increases contradictions with the subsequent constitutions, because then counterclaims via uso capião could be made. And also they introduced two new ideas of the social interest and the social function. Thereby, if a private property were not productive, they could be reordinated to social interests of agrarian reform in the case of the Amazon. And what the land law evolution says that the Amazonia is liminal space in terms of the frontier territorialization. And we have 3 points about all the land law evolution that it's important. First, it's generated the language German to the current land appropriation in the Amazon, like the productive use and direito de posse and terras devolutas, and also the social function. Second, it has contradictory concepts of ownership. So constant changing of property rights subjects or not to social function over time. And thirdly, it changed authority assigning property rights. So first, the church into parishes where the lands are titled, then the monarchy, then the federal government, and by last, the states. So, and this created a lot of overlapping claims. And also, the states at some time, they provided freehold ownership and long-term leases for the rubber and the Brazil nut oligarchies, which created a lot of conflicts too. So thinking about Amazonian territorialization, I'm gonna describe 4 stages that were divided into it, just to give you an idea how it contributed to create the land appropriation industry we see today. So the early stage, we had extractive economies based on Brazil nut and rubber, and a lot of oligarchies with state granted large tracts of land with impoverished rural population, but this population could claim rights via uso capião. And then the first road building efforts before the Brazilian dictatorship brought around 2 million landless people to the southeastern fringe of Amazonia, but also brought a lot of agri-industrial capitalists from south appropriating land in Mato Grosso and Pará via grilaging. And this also continued during the military dictatorship. Under the military regime, even the government created the land statute, which allowed the land expropriation and redistribution, claiming the social function and the productive use. But it was a high burden for private owners. Therefore, they made also terras devolutas available for settlement and possession. And then they created a network of highways for most of the Amazon, and started to do direct and integrated colonization projects. They created also the National Institute for Conservation, Colonization, and Agrarian Reform, INCRA, and they passed to INCRA the control of 30% of Brazilian lands, 100 kilometers in each side of all federal built and planned roads. And they started to colonize this region via settlement projects, but also put apart large tracts for the agro-industrial investors. But this somehow has failed, but at least it creates the spatial grid of roads and also made a lot of forests accessible for possessions. And also, in some places, it created violent conflicts between the oligarchs and the poor claimants, like in southern Pará and Luta Poceira. And yeah, after the dictatorship, in the new democracy, what we see is a process of direct action land reform, doing mostly in 2 ways. One, which is social movements led with coordinate action with a socialist ideology via settlement projects, via expropriation of productive latifundios, large lands. And the other one's more a spontaneous movement. It's ideological, independent, and focused on terra devoluta, with the state sanctioning the settlement creation afterwards, and rely more on family networks and supported by the intra-regional migration. And then at the fourth stage, we have this neoliberal environmentalism, and which is the state trying to adjust to environmental movements worldwide. And the Amazon was known as a social environmental frontier. We had lots of creation of conservation units and ratification and homologation of indigenous lands. So today, 53% of Amazonia is covered by these protected areas. I also created communal settlements for grant usufruct rights for riverine communities for forest extractivism and subsistence. But also the global actors rearranged and changed their discourses. So an idea of denaturing environmental questions. So they were more for land sparing and agricultural intensification. And this at this time also, the government started to combat grillaging, and they created a law that for the first time changed that now the land tenure registration should be a geo-reference system, online, publicly available, and integrated. So this all adds complexity to land appropriation or land grabbing. And also, all the global politics for capitalist expansion also reflect in Brazil via agribusiness politics for exports. And since the end of the 2000s, we have in Congress a congressional coalition called the Ruralists. And they have been providing many law changes, such as Terra Legal, which instead of granting titles to smallholders, where is being widely used by elites to justify land grabs up to 1,500 hectares. And then the new forest bill also pardoned illegal deforestation and created this rural environmental registry, CAR. This CAR is not an instrument of land tenure, but it has been used as an instrument of land grabbing in undesignated public lands, conservation units, and also settlements and indigenous lands. And third, this law of land regularization also modifies another laws that extends the area and the time that these lands could be appropriated and be titled. So we see that it's a complete approval of laws that facilitate land appropriation that was once illegal and then are becoming regularized. So, and the current mode of land appropriation, which I call the land grab industry, it is direct action, but it's not land reform, and it's a land industrialization process. It tries to overcome the old barriers. It uses information networks and acquired experiences over time, and it looks like an evolved version, a more complex version of the old modes. And of course, we have multiple new roles of agents being played, and with the goal that after that, government will grandfather in legalization, and to a big extent is a money maker endeavor focused on speculation. Now I'm gonna present a bit of the study area. So this study was focused on these 7 municipalities or counties. It has around 300,000 square kilometers, more or less the area of New Mexico. The population is 255,000 and a cattle herd of 750,000. And forest loss is still low, like 4% of the area, but still it represented 88% of all Amazonas deforestation in 2020, and 12% of the area deforested in the entire Amazonian, Brazil's Amazonian biome. And this is a frontier where IRSA and a lot of infrastructure investments are being made, even in hydroelectric dams, but also paving roads and others to connect the South America infrastructure, and also all grains and other commodities produced down south in Brazil are also using these routes, either highways or roads, to connect to ports up north that are closer to Europe, US, and also to Panama Canal, to East Asia. So first, I'm gonna just show a bit how the public land tenure regulation in this region occurred. And today we have more or less 56% of the area is protected areas, mostly conservation units for sustainable use. And 9% are settlements, so 3.5 conventional settlements, which have individual private property and organizing farm lots, and communal settlements that are communal rights in terms of land, so they're not private. And still 20% is undesignated public land, or UPL, former terras devolutas, still awaits for land regulation. And if we see the evolution of area in the region, we see that the neoliberal period where many of the protected areas were created. And also we have some kind of a step-like pattern of settlements creation in two phases. So to approach to this first objective of process agents and the land grab industry, I use participant observation based on more or less 11 years or 10 years, where I visit the region every 2 months. And also I complemented this with in-depth field work with key informant interviews in 2019, and also archival research. And what I did was triangulated all this information and try to identify actors and their territorializing performances. And I provide here a table which shows the main actors involved in illegal land grabbing in the region. So we have Laranjas, which I will explain next, Grelados, but also government bureaucrats, politicians, entrepreneurs, and more specialized services like geospatial service providers, and as well money launderers. So we have to keep in mind that these individuals may play multiple roles. So for instance, farmers, which are not here as individuals, they may provide some of these services or may play these roles as well. So one individual may act according to 2 or more profiles listed here. So in this sense, they are multivalent, so they play multiple roles, could be agronomic land users, but also engage in illicit land appropriation. So Laranjas refers to anyone whose good name has been used to register a parcel of land that in fact belongs to another. So like you could plant orange trees to demonstrate product use. A patron plants people claimants as claimants on his or her lands. That's the idea. And these laranjas are typically family farmers providing services for the corporate sector. For instance, one informant described it that there is one person that controls over 40 land parcels for his colleagues as a Laranja. And also Laranja could be invented or phantom name from documents purchased from associations in other places. And I witnessed cases in which the interviewee confessed not to know who owned landholding neighboring hers, but in fact they own it. So kind of a disguise strategy to avoid fines and prosecution. All of such cases illustrate that the Laranja concept is evolving over time and becoming more complex. And the use of Laranja was once an elite-driven scheme, but now has been adopted to by smallholders too. The second specialized road is the Grelado. So they are specialized actors from other states, and it could be divided in three main grilaging schemes. First, they can enclose the land, divide it to parcels, and seek for buyers. But alternatively, they can also deforest the land, sow grass seeds, and then they increase their ultimate profits on sale. So implying they have more capital available to risk. And the third type, and the most damaging one, is the formation of extensive ranches for purely speculative purposes, often using laranjas or shell companies. In only one municipality of these seven, the informants identified 7 Grelados groups by name of this third scheme. So, and they also mentioned that this is a likely mechanism to launder money from other sources. And for instance, we've been hearing about drug dealing, but also money from corruption and gambling sectors. The idea they act on lands that they know has not been legally titled to anyone, and they also may coerce or using militias in many cases as reported. But also they interact with other actors, hiring labor, such as the forest fellers, that are, so they also sell lands or outputs and buy inputs. So Grelados are part of this, the actors in the region, they are connected to the others as well. Next, government bureaucrats. So they have privileged information and expertise on law loopholes. They are also indicated by informants as corrupt, and they use this information to support land appropriation by providing intelligence for grillaging operations and assist corporate actors in finding the laborers. And they actively search for public areas without land claims, share with others that demarcate them, and look for buyers further. And so, like this quote here that from the public ministry prosecution, that there were several operations that arrested government bureaucrats. And not to say that all government staff is involved, but in these remote regions, there's always someone willing to be paid and be part of this industry. Yeah, and in addition, also politicians were cited. They either state or federal deputies and senators, and they are known to finance grillaging and use laranjas as well, and launder money from corruption, as this informant here reported. And they are usually from other states, but also could be from Amazonas. Next, we have entrepreneurs, and different from large holders, the capital invested in land by these businessmen derived from these extraction sectors, including dairy plants, agricultural stores, sawmills, and machinery services, but also can come from textiles, food and gas retail sectors, among others. And noteworthy here is the businessmen involved in illegal activities must launder profits somehow. And usually they use shell companies in the name of Laranjas. And for the logging industry, for instance, it accounted like 38% of all deforestation infractors were done by logging industries. And like this Operation Deforest cited here, there are numerous operations that arrested people cited for corruption, fraud, and money laundering in the region. And finally, it's essential to note that this industry is technologically sophisticated. It relies on geospatial service providers to map land claims. These providers often play dual roles. They are hired for government for mapping some areas such as protected areas, but they also are hired by the corporate sectors and actors to do this illegal demarcation. So they provide a car registry, and they enter this registry in the national database, and this could be further used to claim that piece of land as theirs. So with the exposed so far, it's possible to have an idea of how more complex the land appropriation is in the region right now. And it has become an industry with specialized services that rely on privileged information and enlist money to conduct illegal activities. Now I'm gonna turn into the second part. And I'm really sorry because I uploaded the wrong version of the presentation. I'm not sure how it will be in the end, but I'll try to do my best to show to you. The second part is based on the spatial analysis. And for that, I used first the data on the Atlas for agricultural and ranching in Brazil. It combines land tenure data from various government sources. And the key here is that this data resolve for a lot of overlaps between, for instance, protected areas and indigenous lands, settlements and protected areas. It uses a hierarchical rules based on quality and the laws hierarchies, and then provides a unique non-overlapped database for the region. And it also has car on it, but I removed the car registries because I'm going to combine this with car registries afterwards. And so all that were blanked or were car registries, I summed it up with the rest of the undesignated public lands, or UPL. So the other data is the car registries itself. So as I said, it's not a land regulation document, it's self-declared, and it's being using as a land grab instrument. And here we can see where the lighter color hues are the car overlaps. And the region, in this region, we have 50% of overlaps between cars, among cars, one or more. And it's important also to notice that these are not the entire land claims that are being done in the region, because many avoid to register in car because they want to avoid prosecution. What I did, I used a decision tree to determine the nature of these car claims in terms if they are illicit or licit, based on the current legislation. So legislation says that within protected areas, be it indigenous lands or conservation units or military, these are illicit. If they are within settlements, if it is in the communal type, which does not allow for individual property rights, it is illicit as well. But if it is in the conventional type, the law says that before 85, the maximum area permitted is 2,500 hectares. Otherwise, it's illicit. And then if it is between 85 and before 2014, the maximum area permitted in the region is 400 hectares, otherwise is illicit. And after 2014, then the maximum area permitted is 200 hectares, otherwise it is illicit. So with this decision tree, we mapped all the car claims and also resolved for the overlaps. So first we divided, based on this decision tree, all the car claims that were licit and illicit, right? And afterwards, we made like the union, or we dissolved all the boundaries of the illicit and the licit part separately. So we generated area of illicit car claims and without overlap, and the same for the licit. So the results showed that in terms of car claims, we have 81% of the car claims, the area of car claim is illicit, and around 40% is in protected areas. And the most, the target that's more, has more claims is the conservation unit under sustainable use category. But also we have another 20% or so in undesignated public lands. So these are also the target of these car claims. And for the licit, we have around 24% of the licit claims area regarding to the other. Just to let you know that we have a overlap of 5% between the licit and illicit car claims. And what I did is just divided the area I found by the total car area without overlaps in the area, which is 64,642 square kilometers. Sorry, there's an error here. And this is particularly concerning because half of it is in protected areas. And then if we see here, the car claims in the area, they are also in indigenous lands, in areas that are overlapped with indigenous lands and protected areas. And the thing is that all this, the car registration, the car registry started in 2014 officially, and most of these lands, they were created before 2014. So this is really concerning, given what's going on today, but also only except for these protected areas were created after 2014, and they are really here. They were created to protect from illegal appropriation, but in the end, we have that 15% of the illicit claims are in these 4 protected areas here. So going back to deforestation, then we see that deforestation is higher in the illicit claims, and the illicit claims, they account for 35% of the deforestation in the region only. And then we see that many of those claims still didn't start to deforest. And for the other thing, all the illicit claims are much higher than the one that have car claims, that car registries that are analyzed here. So this figure just provides a lower bound to do the impact of deforestation related to illicit land appropriation in the region. So to support the idea that deforestation in the car registries are small right now, are low, but the prospects are that they will increase a lot. For instance, this figure A here shows deforestation in Southern Amazonas divided by size of polygons. And we see that since 2014, there's a huge increase of the size of polygons in the area, especially from 100 hectares over. And we see also some deforested polygons that are larger than 1,500 hectares. So, and figure B here shows that most of this deforestation is happening in undesignated public lands, whether with car or not, and also settlements, whether illicit or illicit, or whether without car. And part of it is entitled private properties. So we see that this shows that there are a lot of investments and people coming to this region and take stakes on public lands and also doing deforestation. And for protected areas, there is also an increase. And here is the deforestation in all protected areas in the region since 2013. And I divided before Bolsonaro and after with Bolsonaro government. And we see that the average here, the increase in percentage is 117% of increase in the last period. So this also because this president Bolsonaro is is weakening environmental legislation and surveillance, and also stimulating land grabs publicly. So as for the rate of legitimization, what I did is I considered the same card claims data before 2014, because before 2014, the maximum area for all conventional settlements allowed was 100 hectares, and in UPL was 1,500 hectares instead of 2,500 hectares. So we did a comparison what the licit or illicit area would be with the data we have if the laws that were changed between 2014 and 2017 wouldn't have happened. And we see that if the old laws applied, we would have around 86% of illegality in the car claims in the area of car claims in the region, not 81%. So this represents a drop of 5.4% in the illegal car claims to become legal in 3 years. So this is a rate of 1,159 square kilometers per year of legitimation. And as the number of car claims before 2014 and after 2017, we have a drop of 90% in the car claims that were illicit and became licit, mostly in conventional settlements as the law changed in many ways. Besides that, so this is the rate. And besides that, there is also efforts on settlements downsizing and elimination. So what I did here is get the official data set from INCRA from 2015 and compare it to 2020 and just count or calculate the area that changed and the number of settlements that changed between those two dates. And what happened that 9 out of the 33 settlements that were in 2020 were downsized, and 2 of the 35 in 2015 were extinct, and this is 5,266 square kilometers of area in reduction of settlements that became undesignated public lands open for land appropriation, and 2 were extinct. And when you see what happened in these areas that are no longer settlements, they're all taken with cars or even titles that could be fraudulent titles. So the rate here is more than 1,000 square kilometers a year between these two dates. And also, although I didn't present here, there is a lot of project laws and movement in Congress trying to downsize also protected areas. So for instance, in Rondônia, in Pará, there are many protected areas, and the 15 most deforested ones have more than 150 proposals to downsize or reduce to a lower conservation status.
Yeah. If you could wrap it up, class period has ended, so I'd like you to wrap it up and summarize your results.
Okay, sorry about it. I got like messed up with this. So what I see here, just wrapping up, what we see is that contemporary modes of land appropriation resemble a land industry. They are affected by the history of land law in Brazil, which is contradictory in many points. There are many law changes currently that are grandfathering land appropriation in the region. So gets illicit or illegal lands becoming legal with the government's approval. We're seeing that based on CAR, 81% of these land claims are illegal. And yeah, and that just to show that the numbers are much higher because these car claims don't get the entire area that is being appropriated in the region. So thank you. I'm sorry because I shortened this presentation a lot to take time, and it was good, but I just used another computer and I just screwed everything. Thank you.
Okay, any quick questions? I know some of you have to leave. Class period is ended, but if anybody has a quick questions, please.
Hey, can I ask one, Tim?
Absolutely.
Hey, Gabriel,
Yes.
thank you for the talk. It came across nicely. Don't worry about it. But here, okay, here's the, it's kind of a conundrum in this sense that, you know, the frontier by definition is an area where, you know, you really don't have laws, right? Or enforcement of the laws. And you've identified a very large part of that land as having been appropriated illegally. But given that it's in a part of the nation that has no law, is it an intractable social problem? Is it something that can be corrected in the absence of law or enforcement?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a vast area and it still has not enough command and control. So the laws lay down the foundation for controlling it, but in the end, it's not controlled and it's open for grabs. But I think a way to control it, it's by the market itself, market regulation. So many of the commodities produced there are exported. So we have many importers that could put pressure on commodities coming from these areas. So with like moratoriums or moratoria or other restrictions to international trade coming from areas that are illegally grabbed. And so far, this moratoria only it's looking at deforestation, not illegal land appropriation. So this could be an improvement to reduce deforestation and illegal land grabs. But as for the law, it's hard to be tractable as is a social process, and the politicians are changing the law for that, right?
Right. Thank you. No, I think that's a good response.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Last call, anybody? Okay, I guess we're going to call it here, and thank you for attending the Zoom meeting and the colloquium, and we appreciate it. Thank you again, Gabrielle, for a wonderful talk, and it's a very important area to work in, and I think Bob's question is really something to think about, because you know, to what degree can this stuff be enforced? And I like the whole idea of moratoria on products coming out of this area. That makes sense, but they have to do it perhaps with respect to the illicit grab holdings, or whatever you want to call them. But it's a very interesting talk. Thank you so much for sharing your research with us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thanks,
you.
Gabriel.
Very good.
Nice job,
All right,
Gabriel. Don't stress.
Yeah, don't stress.
You're all fine.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
You're good. You're good. It's okay. I know how to. You did. I know how that stuff is. You uploaded a longer version. I see that. I understand.
And a longer and incomplete version. That's the problem. The other was much more like, yeah, whatever.
Well, you have to defend your dissertation, so you can do would you do the presentation for your doctoral defense, right?
Yeah. I changed computers because my screen was glitching. So I don't know, I upload the wrong one. I couldn't even open the right one, but it's okay. Patience. Thank you.
All right, take care. Anyway, thank you again. Appreciate it. We'll